He gave the alien girl a towel. She smiled and whispered, "This means marriage, right?" Callan Vance's head throbbed, a relentless drumbeat against the inside of his skull. The wreckage of the Stardust Rambler smoked around him, the acrid scent of burnt plasma and scorched metal stinging his nostrils. He was alive somehow, against all odds, marooned on a world of endless shimmering ochre dunes under a sky split by twin suns. His comms were dead, his life support failing, and his only companion was the silence, vast and oppressive. Days bled into one another, a blur of ration paste and desperate, fruitless attempts at salvage. He'd patched up his environmental suit as best he could, but the filters were failing, letting in the fine, abrasive dust that coated everything. Thirst was a constant companion, a rasp in his throat. Then she appeared, a shimmering figure against the sun-baked horizon, moving with a fluid grace that defied the shifting sands. She wasn't human, not even close. Her skin seemed to absorb and refract the light, a soft internal luminescence that pulsed with faint shifting patterns. She was tall, impossibly slender, with delicate, intricate markings that moved across her face and arms as if tattooed by living light. Her eyes, large and dark, held a profound, ancient stillness. She carried a spear-like staff that hummed with a low resonance. Callan, weak and disoriented, stumbled back, his emergency blaster barely an extension of his shaking arm. She stopped a dozen yards away, observing him, her luminous patterns flaring briefly, almost like an intake of breath. He tried to speak, but only a dry croak escaped. He needed water. He needed shelter. He needed a miracle. And what he got was this otherworldly apparition. She tilted her head, a gesture of inquiry that felt both alien and strangely familiar. Her gaze settled on his face, then drifted to the grime and dried blood caked on his forehead. With a slow, deliberate movement, she extended a hand, palm open, offering nothing but the silence. Callan just stared, too exhausted to decipher the gesture. He dropped his blaster, a clatter in the desolate quiet. He just needed to clean himself, to feel human again. He remembered a small, emergency cleaning kit in his pack, a relic from a life he'd likely never see again. Fumbling through it, he found a small, compacted sonic towel, designed to expand and cleanse with a burst of moisture. He activated it, watching it unfurl into a damp, warm rectangle. He wiped the dust from his face, the grime from his neck, feeling a fleeting moment of relief. Then, on instinct, a gesture of shared humanity in the face of impossible alienation, he held out the still damp towel to her. Her luminous skin flared brighter now, the intricate patterns on her face swirling like miniature galaxies. Her stillness broke. She took the towel, her touch unexpectedly gentle, her long, elegant fingers brushing his. She brought the fabric to her face, a slow, almost reverent gesture. Then her gaze locked onto his. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips, and a sound like the soft chime of crystal escaped her. "This means marriage, right?" Her voice, though formal and precise, carried an unexpected resonance, a soft hum that vibrated through the air and through Callan's very bones. He stood there, towelless, dumbfounded, as the twin suns began their slow descent, painting the dunes in hues of fire. He had no idea what he'd just done. Callan woke to a soft, persistent thrumming, the sound a low vibration against his skin. His head was clear, the throbbing gone, replaced by a dull ache in his limbs. He was no longer in the wreckage, nor on the exposed dunes. He lay on a raised platform, a smooth, cool surface that felt like polished stone. Above him, a canopy of woven light pulsed with soft, therapeutic energy. The air was cool and clean, utterly devoid of dust. He was naked, save for a thin, intricately patterned fabric draped over his lower body. Every inch of his skin felt cleansed, renewed. He pushed himself up, wincing as his muscles protested. The alien woman was there, standing by an arched opening, observing him with that same unnerving stillness. She was dressed in flowing robes the color of deep twilight, the patterns on her skin, even more vivid now, shifting with an ethereal grace. "You are healed," she stated, her voice a melodic hum, devoid of question. The healers have mended your form. They were intrigued by your unusual physiology. Kalen blinked, still processing. Healers? Where am I? What happened? He tried to sound authoritative, but his voice cracked slightly. She stepped closer, her movements fluid and silent. You are in the sanctum of whispers beneath the great spire. I am Zalara, heiress of the Eridai, of the bloodline of Lumina. She paused, her dark eyes studying him intently. You presented the binding cloth to me, a profound gesture human, one that has bound us by ancient decree. Kalen felt a cold dread trickle down his spine. Binding cloth? That was a towel, a sonic towel. I was trying to be polite. You looked like you could use a wipe down after seeing my sorry self. He waved a hand, vaguely, trying to explain the universal gesture of offering comfort. Zalara's luminous patterns shimmered, almost like amusement, though her face remained serene. Your customs are direct. Our binding cloth is not merely for cleansing. It is a vessel for shared essence, a symbolic merging of fates. When you offered it, you offered yourself. When I accepted you. And with your consent, you were brought to this sanctum. Here, your form has been readied for the joining. Kalen stared, horrified. Joining? What joining? I'm a stranded human. I just want to get off this rock. He swung his legs over the side of the platform, but his muscles still felt like jelly. The joining is a ritual, human, Zalara said, her voice now edged with a subtle tension. It is a sacred obligation for the heiress. A partner must be chosen, or gifted to share the burden of the Lumina bloodline, especially now, with the encroaching shadow of the Lumina priesthood. She gestured towards the ceiling. They seek to seize control, to bend the ancient prophecies to their will. My lineage stands in their way. Your sudden appearance and your offering of the binding cloth has been interpreted as a sign by the elders, a ritual survival pairing in a time of great need. It is a bond mark, Kalen Vance, and it is given only once. She looked away, her luminous patterns dimming slightly, revealing a hint of the burden she carried. I cannot break it, even if I wish to, and truthfully, at this moment, you are my only path forward against the High Priestess and her machinations. The weight of alien custom, so vastly different from his own, pressed down on him, suffocating. He was not just marooned, he was now unwittingly entangled in an alien political struggle, his freedom, perhaps his very life, tied to a single misunderstood gesture with a towel. Kalen tried to pace, but his legs still felt rubbery. So, let me get this straight, he said, rubbing his temples. I offer you a towel, and suddenly I'm engaged to an alien princess, no less?
And this priesthood wants to kill you, and by extension me.
Zylara's luminous patterns flickered, a faint internal glow. Your terminology is simplistic, human, but the essence is not incorrect. You are bound to me, yes, not merely as a consort, but as a protector, a partner in the coming trials. The High Priestess, Vexiana, desires the resonance spire. My claim, as heiress, stands in her way. Your presence, an unexpected variable, has complicated her plans and given me an advantage, albeit a precarious one. An advantage? Kalen scoffed, finally managing a few steps. I'm a human, a mechanic. I'm good with a wrench, not a spear. What good am I against a corrupted priesthood? Zalara turned, her dark eyes piercing him. You are resourceful. Your analysis of your crashed vessel, though crude, demonstrated an aptitude for problem solving. Your species, Kalen Vance, is known for its tenacity. And your presence, as an outsider, an unbound element in our prophecies, has caused disarray among Vexiana's diviners. It is a weapon, of sorts. She gestured to a nearby wall, where intricate diagrams of the Eridai societal structure glowed faintly. The Lumina bloodline holds ancient knowledge, stored within the subterranean archive towers. The priesthood seeks to corrupt this knowledge, to rewrite our history, to control the resonance of the spire itself, They believe the spire's resonance can be weaponized. I believe it is meant for healing, for balance. Great, Kalen muttered. So I'm caught between an alien cult and a ritual marriage to stop them from weaponizing a tower? This is a bit much for a Wednesday. He ran a hand through his hair. Look, if I'm bound, what exactly does that mean? Am I your slave? Your guard dog? Zalara's patterns flared, a visible ripple of offense. Never. The bond mark is mutual. It signifies a shared path, a unity of purpose. You are my equal in this, Kalen Vance. More perhaps. You bring an understanding of the external, of different paths, that my people locked in our ancient ways lack. Your perspective might be the key to unlocking the spire's true resonance, and thus defeating Vexiana. She walked to a small polished stone table, where two elaborate, ornate blasters rested. These are the ancestral protectors, symbolic weapons of the Lumina Heiress. One is mine. The other is yours. The priesthood will soon demand I undergo the trial of ancestral harmony. It is a test of spirit, of wisdom, of connection to the Lumina. They expect me to fail, especially with an unbound partner. But you are not unbound. You are bound to me, and we will face it together. Kalen picked up one of the blasters. It felt cold, unfamiliar. He preferred his wrench. So, we fight our way through this trial, using these fancy laser pointers. And then what? Your queen, I'm King Tal? A flicker of something akin to a smile touched Zalara's lips. Something like that, Kalen Vance. Only, the stakes are far higher than titles. They are the very soul of the Eridai. The weight of her words, the absolute conviction in her voice, settled over him. He was truly in deep. Over the next cycle, Kalen found himself immersed in a bizarre, high-stakes crash course in Eridai culture. Zalara was a patient, if formal, instructor. She taught him the intricate nuances of their language, a complex system of hums and resonance that conveyed more emotion than literal meaning. He found his own dry humor often lost in translation, or sometimes strangely amplified. So you're telling me, Kalen said, watching her demonstrate a fluid defensive movement with her ancestral protector, that if I use this thing, I don't just shoot. I have to feel the resonance of my ancestors. Zalara paused, her luminous patterns rippling faintly. Precisely, the ancestral protectors are extensions of the Lumina bloodline's collective consciousness. They respond to intent, to emotional clarity. A chaotic mind produces a chaotic discharge. Kalen sighed, practicing a clumsy block. My mind is basically a pile of old socks in existential dread right now. Good luck with that. Despite the gravity of their situation, small moments of connection began to form. Kalen, the tender survivalist, taught Zalara about practical improvisation. He rigged a crude water purifier from salvaged parts of his ship, impressing her with his ingenuity. Your people rely on ritual for everything, he observed, watching her perform a precise, complex series of hand gestures before drinking. My people just dig a hole or filter. Less pomp, more practicality. Zalara's luminous patterns brightened with something like fascination. Your methods are efficient, direct. We are accustomed to the ancient ways. The ancestors provide guidance through ritual, through resonance. She then explained the concept of pulse resonance sync, a central part of the upcoming trial. It is an empathy-based memory merging. We link our deepest experiences, our traumas, our hopes. It builds a singular purpose. For my people, it is the highest form of intimacy. Carolyn swallowed hard. So, like a mind meld, but with feelings? The priesthood, through subtle means, made their presence felt. Surveillance drones, tiny, humming spheres, occasionally drifted through the sanctum, their optical sensors fixed on Zalara and Kalen. Whispers followed Zalara in the public halls. Doubts about her choice of partner, veiled accusations of sacrilege. Vexiana, the high priestess, sent emissaries, formal envoys who spoke in honeyed tones but carried thinly veiled threats. During one such encounter, Kalen, observing from a shadowed alcove, heard the envoy dismiss him as the unbound outsider defiling the Harris's sacred path. Later, Kalen found Xylar in a quiet chamber, her luminous patterns dimmed, her shoulders slightly slumped. He saw a flicker of profound weariness in her dark eyes, a vulnerability he hadn't noticed before. "They seek to isolate me," she murmured, her voice lower than usual. "To break my resolve before the trial." Kalen felt a surprising surge of protectiveness. "Then we don't let them." He reached out, hesitating for a moment, then placed a hand gently on her arm. Her luminous patterns flared, a sudden, intense burst of light that made him pull back instinctively. But she didn't recoil. Instead, she leaned into his touch, her hand finding his. "Your touch. It is different. Grounded. Not ritualistic. It is comforting." Kalen Vance. The admission, so uncharacteristically open for her, felt like a silent confession. The line between duty and a nascent connection was blurring, fast. The priesthood's patience finally wore thin. One cycle later, as Kalen and Xylara practiced in a secluded training hall, a sudden, blinding flash erupted from a ventilation shaft. A high-frequency sonic pulse, meant to disorient and incapacitate, slammed into the hall. Xylara cried out, her luminous patterns flaring wildly as she stumbled. Her connection to the ancestral protector momentarily severed. Kalen, whose human physiology reacted differently to the alien weapon, was momentarily stunned but recovered faster. "Get down!" he yelled, tackling Xylara to the floor. As a second pulse rippled through the air, he used his body to shield her, the familiar impact of a hard surface jolting through him, a stark reminder of survival. Through the ringing in his ears, he saw two cloaked figures descending from the vents, armed with what looked like energy whips. These were not mere envoys, they were assassins. "They don't want a trial," Kalen gritted out, pulling Xylara behind a training pillar. "They want you dead." He glanced at her ancestral protector, lying useless on the floor. "Can you charge that thing up if you're not resonating?" Xylara, still reeling, pushed herself up. "Only if I establish a stable mind link." The pulse. It severed my connection. She pointed to a small emergency panel on the pillar. "The hall's energy conduit. If you can reroute it, focus the power. It might stabilize the resonance." Kalen nodded, a familiar surge of adrenaline thrumming through him. This was a problem he understood. Hardware, power, a quick fix under duress. He scrambled to the panel, his fingers flying across the alien controls, remembering the basic energy schematics Xylara had shown him. The cloaked figures advanced, their whips crackling, the sound of their soft, rapid alien speech, a chilling counterpoint to Kalen's frantic work. "Almost!" he shouted, sparks flying from the panel. The assassins were almost upon them. Xylar, despite her weakened state, stood protectively in front of him, her body a fragile barrier. He saw the flicker of desperation in her eyes, but also a fierce resolve. He remembered her words, "You are my equal in this." He pushed the final control, and with a whine of rerouted power, the ambient light in the hall surged. "Now!" he yelled, pulling her back. Xylara lunged for her ancestral protector. As she grasped it, the surge of power from the conduit, amplified by Kalen's quick thinking, pulsed through her, the weapon humming to life, brighter than before. Her luminous patterns exploded, a blinding flash of light that momentarily stunned the assassins. Xylara raised the protector, and a coherent beam of energy, sharp and focused, shot from its tip, striking one of the assassins, sending them sprawling. The second assassin hesitated, shocked by the unexpected power. Kalen saw his chance. He grabbed a heavy training staff, not as elegant as Xylara's weapon, but blunt and effective. He charged, tackling the remaining assassin, knocking them off balance. The fight was messy, brutal, but they fought as a unit. They fought for survival. When the last assassin lay still, Kalen was panting, a cut bleeding on his cheek. Xylara, too, was breathless, her luminous patterns still flaring. She looked at Kalen, her dark eyes wide. "You saved me," she whispered, the ancient formalism gone, replaced by raw emotion. You truly saved me. The attack shattered any illusion of safety within the sanctum. The high priestess, Vexiana, had openly declared war. We must flee, Zillara stated, her voice clipped, resolute. The trial of ancestral harmony is now moot. She will not wait. She will send more. We must reach the Grand Spire, the ancient heart of the Lumina, before she seals it completely. Kellen nodded, securing the blaster he'd been given. Lead the way then. This is definitely not what I signed up for, but hey, at least it's not boring. He managed a weak grin, but his heart hammered with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. They slipped through the winding, subterranean passages of the sanctum, avoiding patrols, their movements swift and silent. Kalen's survival instincts, honed from years of close calls in deep space, kicked in. He found himself anticipating threats, spotting hidden cameras, and finding obscure maintenance tunnels that Zillara, accustomed to the grand, open ways of the Eridai, hadn't known existed. He patched into a security feed, giving them a real-time map of the priesthood's movements. They're tightening the net, he reported, pointing to a cluster of red dots on the flickering display. Looks like they've already got patrols on the main routes to the spire. Then we will take the path of whispers, Zillara declared, her luminous patterns glowing with a determined resolve. An ancient, forbidden route, known only to the Heiress line and the most senior priests. It passes through the deepest levels of the archive towers. They will not expect us there. The journey through the archive towers was like traversing the petrified memories of a civilization. Towering shelves of glowing data crystals stretched into cavernous darkness, ancient scripts and holograms flickering in the oppressive silence. The air was thick with a scent of ozone and forgotten history. During a brief respite in a forgotten chamber, Zillara sat, her ancestral protector resting across her lap. Her luminous patterns were a kaleidoscope of subdued colors, reflecting an inner turmoil. The pulse resonance sync, she began, her voice soft, almost a murmur, is traditionally performed within the Grand Spire itself at the climax of the trial. It is a moment of profound vulnerability, of shared being. It reveals the core of one's spirit to another. It reveals everything. She looked up, her dark eyes meeting his. I confess, Kalen Vance, that I felt trepidation. To connect with an outsider, a human, to expose the deepest parts of my ancestral line, my very essence, to one so different. She trailed off, a flicker of something raw in her gaze. But now I find myself not fearing it. Not with you. Kalen felt a warmth spread through his chest. I get it, he said, his voice rough. It's a big deal. For me too. I don't exactly share well. Not after everything. He didn't elaborate, but the unspoken weight of his past, of the loss that still haunted him, hung in the air between them. He felt a profound sense of connection to this alien woman, caught in a similar maelstrom of duty and danger. The forced proximity, the shared trauma, had forged something real between them, something deeper than a miscommunicated towel. Look, he continued, whatever this sync thing is, if it helps us get out of this and stop Vexiana, I'm in. We're in this together, remember? He reached out, taking her hand again. This time, her luminous patterns settled into a soft, steady glow, a tranquil pulse that mirrored the burgeoning rhythm in his own heart. The intimacy wasn't sexual yet, not in the way he understood it, but it was profoundly emotional, a joining of fragile trust and shared purpose in the echoing silence of a forgotten past. They reached the Grand Spire's entrance, a monumental archway, guarded by two imposing Eridai warriors in the priesthood's dark, light-absorbing robes. Their energy weapons were primed, their faces grim. The heiress is commanded to halt. One warrior rumbled, his voice devoid of emotion. The spire is sealed by decree of the high priestess. Zillara stepped forward, her ancestral protector held high. I am Zillara, of the bloodline of Lumina. By ancient law, the spire is mine. You serve a corrupt master. Before the warriors could react, Kalen, moving with unexpected speed, hurled a flashbang he'd rigged from a salvaged ship component. The explosive burst of light and sound disoriented them, their luminous skin flaring wildly in distress. Now, Kalen yelled, tackling the nearest warrior while Xylara used her enhanced ancestral protector to incapacitate the other with a precise low-level stun beam. They surged past, pushing through the massive doors of the Grand Spire as alarms began to wail through the ancient structure. Inside, the spire was breathtaking. It was a colossal, crystalline cavern, stretching upwards into an unknown void, its inner surface a mosaic of constantly shifting light and shadow. At its very heart pulsed a core of pure, resonant energy, the true source of the luminous power. Vexiana, the high priestess, stood before the core, surrounded by her inner circle of priests. She was a formidable figure, her dark robes seeming to swallow the light, her eyes burning with fanaticism. "The heiress defies the will of the ancestors," she boomed, her voice echoing through the spire, "and she brings with her an abomination, an unbound who defiles the sacred spaces. The only abomination is your corruption, Vexiana," Xylara countered, her voice ringing with newfound authority. "You twist the resonance for power, seeking to weaponize what was meant for healing. The ancestors themselves reject you." As she spoke, the central core of the spire pulsed, its light intensifying, as if in agreement. Vexiana snarled, raising a hand. "Seize them. The outsider will be purged. The heiress will be purified." A wave of priests surged forward, their energy whips crackling. "This is it, Kalen Vance," Xylara said, turning to him, her luminous patterns a vibrant, determined glow. "The pulse resonance sync must be performed now here within the spire's true heart. Our combined essence, amplified by the spire's power, can expose Vexiana's lies and reveal the truth of the Lumina. But it will be intense. It will be everything." She didn't elaborate, but he understood the unspoken words. It would be more than just a melding of minds. It would be a melding of souls, of bodies, of everything they were. He knew this was the moment of their inevitable intimacy, born from necessity, but now charged with something more. "Bring it on," Kalen said, a fierce resolve hardening his features. He activated his blaster, the alien weapon feeling surprisingly natural in his hand now. "Let's give these guys a show." He moved to flank Xylara, protecting her as she positioned herself before the spire's heart, her ancestral protector held high. The priests closed in, their whips snapping, but Kalen met them with a flurry of precise, desperate shots, using his human ingenuity to counter their ritualized attacks. "When do we sink?" he yelled, ducking under a crackling lash. "Now," Xylara cried, her voice strained. She reached out, grasping his hand. The touch was immediate and profound, a surge of raw energy that bypassed his skin and plunged directly into his consciousness. It wasn't just a physical connection. It was a torrent of memories, emotions, and sensations. He saw glimpses of her childhood, the rigid training, the burden of her lineage, the quiet desperation of her duty. He felt her profound loneliness, her unwavering faith in her ancestors, and the fear she harbored for her people. And then, through her, he felt the spire itself, a vast, ancient consciousness, humming with light and purpose. It was overwhelming, disorienting, yet strangely exhilarating. His own memories, sharp and painful, flowed into her, the desolate void of space, the ache of loss, the crash, the isolation, his pragmatism, his hidden tenderness. They were two rivers, merging into a single, rushing torrent. The physical sensation was equally intense. As their minds intertwined, a potent, visceral energy rippled through their bodies, a mutual need that was both unfamiliar and undeniably primal. Her luminous patterns flared, encompassing them both in a blinding halo of light. The spire's heart pulsed in rhythm with their joined essences, its power amplifying their bond. It was a convergence, a fusion, their bodies reacting to the profound mental intimacy with an escalating physical desire. He felt the soft, yielding press of her body against his, the unexpected curve of her hip, the warm brush of her breath on his skin. It was a sex scene, yes, but unlike any he'd ever known, driven by a cosmic empathetic bond, a shared vulnerability that stripped them bare, mind and body. It was a merging of souls, a ritual completion that transcended the physical, yet ignited it with an unbearable, beautiful intensity. As their pulse resonance sync climaxed, the energy within the grand spire surged, blindingly bright. Kalen felt as if he was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, a single consciousness with Zilara, flowing through the vast, ancient network of the Lumina. And then he saw it. Not just Zylara's memories, but deeper embedded within the spire's own resonance. The true intent of Vexiana and her priesthood. They weren't just twisting prophecies. They were siphoning the spire's life-giving energy, diverting it to build a hidden superweapon, a monstrous device designed to subjugate not just the Eridai, but neighboring star systems. The luminous power, meant for harmony, was being perverted into an engine of conquest. The truth slammed into Kalen, raw and undeniable. He felt Zalara's horror, amplified by their shared connection. She means to drain us dry, Zylara's voice echoed in his mind, not spoken, but felt, as if his own thoughts. To turn our light into a weapon of darkness, the intimate merging had given them clarity, an undeniable truth that resonated through every fiber of their beings. With a final shattering surge of energy, the pulse resonance sync broke, leaving them both gasping, their bodies trembling, but their minds shockingly clear. The priesthood, caught in the spire's sudden energetic surge, stumbled back, disoriented. Vexiana, however, seemed bolstered by it, her dark robes glowing with the stolen energy. "Fools!" she shrieked, her voice distorted by rage. "You have merely accelerated your own destruction. The spire will be mine." But Silura was no longer the tentative heiress. Her luminous patterns now pulsed with an unwavering, brilliant intensity, reflecting the truth she now held. "The spire answers to the Lumina bloodline, not to your corruption, Vexiana," she declared, her voice resonating with the very power of the spire. "The truth of your betrayal is laid bare." As she spoke, images, vivid and undeniable, flared in the crystalline walls of the spire. Vexiana's secret dealings, the hidden weapons schematics, the enslaved workers, the stolen resonance, the illusions of the priesthood, built on centuries of ritual and reverence, crumbled. Chaos erupted. The priests, witnessing the undeniable evidence, faltered, some openly recoiling from Vexiana. Kalen, seizing the moment, fired his blaster, striking a critical energy conduit leading to Vexiana's weapon. The device sputtered, sparking violently. Vexiana roared, her face twisted in a mask of fury, and she unleashed a devastating wave of dark energy directly at Zylara. Zylara met it with her ancestral protector, now blazing with the amplified light of the spire, its energy pure and untainted. The two forces clashed in a blinding explosion of light and shadow, but Zyara's connection, fueled by truth in her bond with Kalen, was stronger. The dark energy recoiled, slamming back into Vexiana, who shrieked as the stolen power turned against her, consuming her in a silent, imploding light. When the light faded, Vexiana was gone, leaving only a faint scorch mark on the spire's floor. The remaining priests, leaderless and exposed, dropped their weapons, their faces contorted in shame and fear. The spire hummed, a gentle, healing resonance, the light in its heart stabilizing, no longer fractured by corruption. The external threat was quelled, but the emotional aftershocks of the pulse resonance sync and the weight of their now undeniable public bond had only just begun. The immediate aftermath was a whirlwind of activity. The faithful of the Lumina, their eyes opened by the spire's revelation, rallied around Zilara. The surviving priests, those not tainted by Vexiana's fanaticism, began the arduous task of cleansing the priesthood, re-establishing ancient, uncorrupted rituals. Kalen, now an unlikely hero, found himself the object of fascinated stares. His bond with Zalara, publicly acknowledged by the spire's powerful display, was undeniable. He was no longer just the unbound outsider, but the bound companion, the one who had shared the Iris's essence and helped defeat the corruption. The pulse resonance sync, it is irrevocable, Zalara stated later, in a quiet chamber overlooking the re-sanctified spire. Her luminous patterns were serene, a soft, steady glow that seemed to radiate peace. Our essences are intertwined, Kalen Vance. For my people, this is the ultimate commitment, a bond mark, as I said, given only once. It signifies a complete union. It is marriage, in the truest sense of the lumina. She looked at him, her dark eyes filled with an emotion he now recognized as profound affection. You are now part of the bloodline of Lumina, Kalen Vance. By choice, by fate, and by our shared essence. Kalen ran a hand over his face. Marriage, he repeated, the word feeling impossibly heavy on his tongue. To an alien, on an alien planet. This is a lot. His dry humor was failing him. The intimacy of the sink, though born of necessity, had irrevocably altered their connection. It had been more than just physical. It had been a stripping bare of his very soul, and the revelation of hers. He felt raw, exposed, but also deeply connected. I don't know the first thing about being a Lumina, husband, consort. What even is my title? Zalara smiled, a genuine soft curve of her lips. Your title is Companion of the Heiress, Kalen Vance. It carries immense honor and immense responsibility. You will help me rebuild, guide our people, share our wisdom. You will be my partner in all things. She reached out, her hand gently tracing the contours of his face, her luminous patterns pulsing gently under her skin. I admit, she continued, her voice softer, before the sink, I knew only duty. My emotions were restrained, as is the custom of our people. But now, with you, I feel a resonance I have never known. A warmth, a clarity. I care for you, Kalen Vance. More than duty dictates. The confession, so simple yet so profound from her, struck him deeply. He saw the vulnerability beneath her ritualistic composure, and it was beautiful. I care for you too, Zalara, he admitted, the words surprising him with their depth of feeling. This whole thing has been a cosmic joke, a wild ride, but I wouldn't have wanted to do it with anyone else. He pulled her closer, his arms wrapping around her slender form. Her skin, where it met his, felt strangely warm, vibrant with life. The remnants of the pulse resonance sync hummed between them, a lingering connection that promised more. He felt a deep, abiding sense of belonging, an unexpected anchor in the universe. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was something profoundly personal, something that demanded a new kind of courage. The transition from crisis to governance was slow, arduous. Zalara, now undisputed heiress, worked tirelessly to heal her people physically and spiritually. Kalen, the companion, found himself in a role he never anticipated. He wasn't just a mechanic or a survivalist anymore. He was a bridge between worlds, an interpreter of alien concepts, a pragmatic voice in a culture steeped in ritual. He helped implement practical solutions for their dwindling water reserves, using his human ingenuity to develop new filtration systems. He advised on trade agreements with hesitant neighboring systems, his outsider perspective proving invaluable, but it was in their private moments that their bond truly deepened, moving beyond the forced intimacy of the sink into something more deliberate, more profound. One night, under the soft glow of the spire, they sat in a quiet alcove. Zalara reached for his hand, her luminous patterns rippling with a subtle sensuality. The Lumina once practiced a secondary merging, she whispered, her voice low. After the public sync, a private communion, to fully align mind, body, and spirit. It is not duty, Kalen Vance. It is desire. Kalen's breath hitched. Desire? He echoed, his throat dry. He'd seen the raw, primal energy of the sink, the unexpected blend of mental and physical release. Now to approach it with intention, with conscious awareness of their connection, was a different kind of terrifying. But the desire was mutual, a current that had run beneath their interactions since that first fateful towel. "Are you teaching me how to be a good Lumina husband?" he managed, a flicker of his dry humor returning. Zalara's faint smile touched her lips. "I am teaching you how to be a good companion, Kalen Vance, and you, perhaps, are teaching me how to be more than just Eris." She led him to a private chamber, illuminated by soft, ambient light from the spire. There, on a raised plinth covered in intricately woven fabrics, they knelt, Zalara's luminous patterns intensified, casting a warm glow around them. Her touch, as she slowly unfastened his tunic, was feather-light, reverent. Their kiss, when it came, was soft, tentative at first, then deepened, infused with the echoes of their shared journey, their trauma, their triumph. This was no accidental initiation, no desperate act in a battle. This was a conscious, slow exploration of their new reality, a quiet unfolding of their vulnerabilities. She showed him how their luminous patterns could respond to his touch, how his breath could affect her internal glow. He learned to feel her emotions, not just through the residual mental link, but through the subtle shifts in her skin's luminescence. He whispered earth idioms, simple phrases of affection, and she would hum in response, her formal language translating them into resonant affirmations. The sex was a slow, sensual dance of alien and human, of mind and body, of shared vulnerability and emergent passion. It was a union not just of individuals, but of two worlds, two disparate species, finding harmony in the most intimate of ways. It was a commitment forged in the crucible of battle, cemented in the quiet intimacy of acceptance. Years passed on Solus Null, marked by the twin suns' steady rhythm and the renewed pulse of the Grand Spire. Kalen Vance, the human who had stumbled into an alien marriage by offering a towel, was no longer merely the companion of the Heiress. He was Kalen of Lumina, a respected voice among the erudite, known for his pragmatic wisdom and his quiet strength. He'd learned to navigate the intricacies of their culture, to appreciate the beauty of their rituals, and to cherish the profound connection he shared with Zalara. Their bond, forged in crisis and deepened by intimate understanding, had evolved beyond the initial shock and necessity. The pulse-resonance sync had indeed made them irrevocably intertwined, but it was their conscious choice, their daily acts of love and partnership, that truly cemented their union. They continued to work side by side. Zalara, as the visionary leader, guiding her people back to their true ancestral path, and Kalen as her grounding force, bridging the gap between ancient tradition and modern necessity. He found a new purpose, a home in this strange, luminous world. He still tinkered with technology, often adapting human innovations to erudite needs, much to the fascination of their engineers. And he still made the occasional, culturally inappropriate joke, which Zalara, with her heightened emotional resonance, now understood perfectly, often responding with a soft, knowing hum and a faint ripple of amusement in her luminous patterns. She had learned to embrace humor, a quality she once considered a strange human affectation, now seeing it as a vital part of Kalen's essence, a contrast to the intensity of their world. One evening, as they stood on a high platform overlooking the sprawling, rebuilt city, the grand spire glowing majestically in the twilight, Zalara turned to him. Her luminous patterns pulsed with a gentle warmth, reflecting the love that had bloomed between them. "Do you ever regret it, Kalen Vance?" she asked, her voice soft. "This bond mark, this life?" Kalen smiled, a genuine, heartfelt warmth spreading through him. He reached out, taking her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. Her skin, cool and smooth, pulsed faintly beneath his touch. "Regret what, Zalara?" he asked, his gaze fixed on her beautiful, shimmering face. "Giving you a towel? Finding a home? Finding you?" He squeezed her hand gently. "Not the best towel I ever gave." Zalara's luminous patterns flared, A burst of bright, pure light, and she leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. Perhaps, she whispered, her voice filled with a profound affection, it was the best towel you ever received. The twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting long purple shadows across the dunes, and as the spire pulsed with its healing light, Kalen Vance knew, with absolute certainty, that he was exactly where he was meant to be, a human man, irrevocably bound by a simple towel to an alien queen.